Hi guys, so today we're going to be moving on to the next section in chapter 6, which is lesson 6.5. For today's class, please make sure that you complete the entrance ticket that is posted for today. It needs to be done by 12 o'clock tomorrow, meaning Friday. Just one thing that I've been noticing is that some of you aren't taking the entrance tickets seriously, and I just want you guys to know that I am grading them and they're going to be a factor in your trimester 3 grade. You guys also should know that you are allowed to use your notes, textbook, whatever else you need in order to try to complete the questions to your best of your ability. Some of these questions might take you only like a few minutes, but some of these questions actually should take a little bit of time in order to complete. So I'm just going to say this, moving forward, please make sure that you do take them seriously. So like I mentioned, we are going to complete lesson 6.5 today, which is on circumference and area of circles. So this again is something that you guys should be familiar with. And there is going to be an activity for you guys to complete at the end of the lesson today. So here we go. Lesson 6.5, circumference and area of a circle. Like always, guys, your notes can be found in the folder for you guys to print out, do digitally, whatever you want to do. But your SWBAT for today is to find the circumference and area of a circle. So moving right into it, parts of a circle. So there's different parts that make up a circle. So the first part here is a radius. So a radius is a segment that connects the center of the circle to a point on the circle. So if you notice, this is the center of my circle. It's right smack dab in the middle. So a center out to the side. So right there, that would be considered your radius. Okay? And we use a lowercase r in order to represent that. Now, if you were to draw a separate circle yourself, anything could be a radius. Like I could go this way. That would be the radius of my circle. I could go down. That's still the radius of my circle. And I could go like cockeyed like that. That's still a radius of my circle. So if any of you are bakers and like you want to cut yourself a slice of pie, that's the piece of pie you're going to be cutting yourself. A nice piece of apple pie warmed up with some vanilla ice cream on top. Your slices that you're making for yourself, they're your radius, okay? They're meeting at this center point right here, and they're going out to the crust. So that would be the side of your circle. So your radius goes from the center out to the side of the circle. Your diameter now is a segment that passes through the center of your circle and has endpoints on both sides of it. So it goes through the center and it touches both sides of the circle. So that's like taking a pizza and cutting it in half. So like if you were to eat half of the pizza, you would get from the diameter of it, okay? It's cutting the circle in half, per se. Now, one thing to note is that a diameter, we use the lowercase d to represent diameter, and then a diameter is made up of two radii. Radii is just the plural form of radius. So two radii, or two radiuses, make up your diameter. So the next part we're going to talk about is circumference. Now, circumference is the distance around the circle. One way you could think about it is that circumference is the same thing as relating to perimeter. So for circumference, you're trying to find this whole distance around, okay? Remember, like I said earlier, if you were to be given a square, to find the distance around, that's known as your perimeter. Okay, to find the distance around a circle, we call it circumference. We use the capital letter C to represent circumference, and there's two formulas now that we can use for circumference. The first one is circumference is equal to pi times diameter, so you could take pi times the diameter, or you could take circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Now stop and think for a second. How are these two formulas related to one another? So if you said that these two were related because your diameter is made up of two radii, then you would be correct. So both of them can be used when finding circumference. It doesn't matter which one you use. All I'm going to let you know is that whatever you're given in the figure, use that formula to help you. So like if you're given a diameter, then I'm going to choose to use circumference is equal to pi times diameter. But if I was given the radius, then I would choose to use circumference is equal to 2 pi r, okay? So it's all going to depend on what is given in the figure or the wording. So the next thing we're going to talk about is pi. Now, pi is an important ratio. And remember, guys, ratios are simply just a fraction, okay? We talked about these a while back. But pi is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. So we use this pi symbol, and we can think of pi is equal to circumference over diameter. So if you were to take any circle circumference and divide it by the diameter, you would end up getting pi. Remember, pi is a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. And these are two important pieces for you to know, is that both 22/7 and 3.14 can be used to represent pi. Now, I'm going to tell you it's important to be able to know how to use both when solving these problems, because sometimes I'll tell you guys to use 3.14, sometimes I'll tell you guys to use 22/7, and then sometimes even on your calculators, I'll tell you to use the pi symbol. So you guys are going to have to make sure that you're paying close attention to the directions that I'm giving you to make sure that you're using the correct representation of pi. But for the most part, 3.14 is the most common one that we're going to be using. So, finding a circle circumference. So it says find the circumference of the circle using 3.14 for pi. So with number 1, I'm going to notice here. So first and foremost, let's just write our two formulas that I can use. Circumference is equal to pi times the diameter, or circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So looking at number 1, I'm noticing I'm going from both sides of my circle out. So that tells me that I am giving a diameter, and that my diameter is equal to 18 inches. So knowing the two formulas that I have, since I'm given the diameter, I'm going to use circumference is equal to pi times diameter. And then I'm going to fill in what I know. So that means circumference is equal to pi. Well, up in the directions, it tells me to use 3.14 for pi. So I'm going to use 3.14 times my diameter, which is 18. And then I'm going to multiply that using a calculator. And when I do so, I get exactly circumference is equal to 56 and 52 hundredths. Now think about it. When you use perimeter, what type of units do you use? So if you just said you just use the units how they're given, you're correct. So you just would write 56 and 52 hundredths inches. So since circumference is related to perimeter, you just use regular old units. All right, looking at number 2 then. So I need to find the circumference, but now they give me the radius of the circle being 4 millimeters. So they don't give me the figure anymore, but they tell me radius is 4 millimeters. Since they're giving me the radius, I'm going to use the formula circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So that means now filling in what I know, circumference is equal to 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which they tell me is 4. So now I'm just going to do some multiplication on my calculator. So 2 times 3.14, that gives me 6.28. And I'm going to multiply that by 4 now, and that is going to give me 25 and 1200. So circumference is equal to 25 and 1200 with my units being millimeters. And that is going to be my final answer. So circumference is pretty easy to solve for. You just have to make sure you identify what you're given, what method you need to be using for pi. Is it 22/7? Is it 3.14? Is it the pi key on my calculator? And then just plug into the formula and solve. So we're going to look at a few more. So now what they're going to tell you to do is they're telling you to find the circumference of the circle using the pi key on the calculator. So if you guys don't know the pi key on your calculator, I would suggest that you take a moment right now and pause the video so that you can find this key on your calculator. If you have a Texas Instrument, so a TI, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to hit the second key first, and then you're going to have to hit the caret key, okay? And if you notice, above that caret key is the pi symbol. So if you have a Texas Instrument, what you have to do is that you have to hit second and then the caret key to get your pi symbol. If you have a Casio, so if you have a Casio, what you guys are going to have to do is you're going to have to hit the shift key. And then all the way down at the bottom, you have a key of EXP. You're going to have to hit that. Okay, so if you have a Casio, you're going to have to hit shift and then EXP. And then that'll give you your pi symbol. Alright, so now, getting back to doing the problem. So you have to find the circumference using the pi key. So looking at number 3, I notice I'm giving a radius. So I'm going to use the formula circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So I'm going to fill in what I know. 2, well, pi, they tell me to use the key. So I'm going to just leave it as pi. And then I'm just going to put it in 4.5. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug all of that into my calculator. So I'm going to do 2 times pi times 4.5. So when I do that, I get this really long decimal. So circumference is going to be about, and it's like 28.2743333. Okay? Now, what I'm going to suggest is that you always round to the nearest hundredth. So remember, if they don't tell you, round to the nearest hundredth. So C circumference is going to be about 28 and 27 hundredths inches. Okay, so 2 decimal places. All right. I'm going to do it again. So number 4, the diameter is 17 feet. So they're telling me diameter. So that means I'm going to use circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. Pi stays as pi, diameter goes in as 17, and I'm going to multiply that. So on your calculators, you guys are going to get 53.407075. So that means circumference is going to be about, rounding to the 2 decimal places, circumference is about 54.41 feet. And there's your final answer. All right, so I'm going to ask that you guys try the next 4 problems. The first 2, you're using 3.14 for pi. The last 2, you're using pi on your calculator and go to 2 decimal places, okay? All right, pause the video and try them. All right, guys, there you have it. Double check your work, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move into area of a circle. So for area of a circle, just one thing for you guys to know is that if you cut a circle into equal sectors, so that means equal parts, and place them side by side, you can make a shape close to a parallelogram. So think about it. Area of a parallelogram is equal to the base times the height of a figure. Well, in this case, you're talking about these sectors here. So that's this part right here. Well, that height is really the radius because it's going from the center out to the side. And then your base now, so your base of the figure is all of these sectors put together, which is pi times the radius. Okay, so our formula for area now is area is equal to pi r squared. And like before, we're still using units that are squared. So like with area of a parallelogram, if it was inches, it would be inches squared. If it's centimeters, it's going to be centimeters squared. So you're still using that fact for area of a circle. So finding the area of a circle, find the area of the circle, round to the nearest tenth when necessary. So our formula for area is equal to pi times the radius squared. So for those of you that don't remember, radius squared is like the same thing as saying pi times radius. Okay, so we're going to fill in what we know. So, and I'm going to write the formula again. So pi r squared. Pi, they tell us to use 3.14. Radius is 12, and I have to square that. So this really now, when I simplify 12 squared, and to plug that in your calculator, you would do 12, and then you hit the caret key, and then you would hit 2 again. So this would become 3.14. 12 squared, 12 times 12 gives you 144. And now, if I plug in 3.14 times 144, I'm going to get area to be about, and rounding to the nearest tenth, so that's 1 decimal place, I get about 452.2, and it's centimeters squared. So the area of that circle is 452 and 2/10 centimeters squared. Okay, so for number 2, if I notice I have a diameter. Now, in my area formula, I just need the radius. Now remember, diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Okay, so if I'm trying to figure out what one radius is, so let's just solve this simple equation for radius. So that means I would divide both sides by 2, so radius is equal to diameter divided by 2. So whenever you're given a diameter and you need a radius, all you have to do is take your diameter and divide by 2. So in this problem now, I'm going to take 3 and divide it by 2. 3 divided by 2 is going to give me 1.5. So my radius is equal to 1.5 yards. So taking my formula, area is equal to pi times radius squared, using 3.14 for pi, times the radius, which is 1.5 squared. I'm going to simplify this, so this is going to become 3.14 times 1.5 squared is 2.25. And then I'm going to simplify this by multiplying and rounding to the nearest tenth. So I should get my area to be about 7.1 yards squared. And there you have it. All right, so again, now that we've gone through area, remember if you're given the diameter, you're going to have to find the radius. I'm going to ask that you guys pause the video again and you try these two. You try. The first one gives you a radius of 42. The second one, you have a diameter of 15. So for number 2, you're going to have to do one additional step. So pause the video right now and try these 2 problems. All right, and there you have it. So realizing this, the problem doesn't tell you, your notes tell you to use 3.14. The you try slide didn't say it, but your note said use 3.14, round to the nearest tenth. Number 1, you should get about 5,539 millimeters squared. Number 2, you're going to have to solve for the radius first and then get an area of about 176.6 feet squared. Questions? If so, please reach out to me, send me a Schoology message, but we are going to move on now. So if you guys notice in your notes, I do give you guys a little note that says don't round to the given place value until the very end. One thing that you guys should know is if you round too early, it's going to throw off your final answer. Okay, so don't round until the very end. So if I look at the first problem, now we're going into problems like what we did before. So it says the area of a circle is 38 square meters. What is the diameter of the circle? Use 3.14 for pi. So it says area is 38 square meters. They're asking me what is diameter, and they're telling me to use 3.14 for pi. So I'm talking about area, so I know I can only use the formula. Area is equal to pi times radius squared. Now plug in what you know. So you know the area is 38. You know pi is 3.14, and you need to solve for diameter, but first you're going to have to solve for the radius. So get the r squared by itself by dividing both sides by 3.14. So I'm going to carry this up here. So I'm going to get r squared is equal to, and I'm going to take it out to 4 decimal places, so 12.1019. And that's one thing you guys should do is to take it out to 4 decimal places. And that's only until you round. Once you round, you only need until to the spot that it's telling you to. So now to get r by itself, to cancel out a squared, you're going to have to square root both sides. So there's a fancy button on your calculator that looks a lot like that. You're going to have to plug in that in order to find it. And when you do so, you get r to be about 3.479. Now, the question tells me to find the diameter. Now, what do we know about diameter and radius? Well, a diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So I'm going to fill in what I know about my radius, which is 3.479. And then I'm going to multiply this. And I'm going to round now to the nearest tenth. So that means my diameter is going to be about 7 meters. So it's taking the problem of what you're given and you know and using one of the formulas to solve for the question. So looking at question 2 now, it says the circumference of a circle is 73 meters. What is the radius using 3.14 for pi? So circumference is 73. I need to find the radius using 3.14 for pi. So I'm going to use the formula circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Fill in what I know, so circumference is 73. I have 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times my radius, which I'm asked to solve for. So I'm going to simplify and then solve for r. So if you notice now, you have a one-step equation. So you're going to divide both sides by 6.28. And then you're going to get r to be about 11.6 meters. And that's your final answer. All right, 2 more examples that we're going to do. So number 3, it says the area of a circle is 19 centimeters squared. It says I use the pi key on the calculator. What is the radius, diameter, and circumference of the circle? Round to the nearest tenth when necessary. So there's 3 numbers I need to solve for. Well, they're telling me the area, so I'm going to start out with my area formula. Looking at my area formula and what they're telling me, I know I'm going to have to solve for r first. So I'm going to plug in what I know. So 19 is the area. I'm still using the pi key. I need to solve for r. Now remember, divide both sides by pi. So then you're left with r squared is equal to, and take it out to a few decimals, so 6.049. Get rid of the square by square rooting, and you get r to be about 2.5. So now that you have r, you can solve for diameter, which is 2 times the radius. So that means diameter is equal to 2 times 2.5. So diameter is equal to 5. And these should all be 5 centimeters and 2.5 centimeters. Now, solving for circumference. You have both the radius and the diameter, so you can pick whatever formula you want to use. You're still going to use the pi key, though. So I'm just going to equal circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So that means I have 2 times pi times 2.5. And then when I simplify and plug this into my calculator, I'm going to get 15.7 centimeters. Okay, so I just solved for the 3 parts using all of the information I know. So it's just putting everything into one. Alright, so last problem we're going to do together. If the circumference of a circle is 66 inches and I use 22/7 for pi, what is the diameter, radius, and area of the circle? So you have circumference is 66 and you're using 22/7 for pi. So you need to start out with circumference. Now it doesn't matter what formula. I'm going to start out with circumference is equal to pi times diameter. So I'm going to have 66 is equal to pi, which is 22/7, times the diameter. Now remember, when you were multiplying by a fraction, in order to get rid of the fraction, instead of dividing by a fraction, we multiplied by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 7/22. Now remember, you can take any whole number and write it over 1. So now I'm going to simplify this, and I'm going to cross simplify, so I know 22 can go into 66 3 times. So now I just have 7 times 3, which is 21, is equal to my diameter. And remember, guys, you can always multiply straight across if you need to. Now, I have my diameter, which is one piece I needed. Radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. So I'm going to take 21 and divide it by 2. And in that case, I'm going to get my radius to be 10.5. So the last piece of this puzzle is to find the area. So remember, area is equal to pi times radius squared. So area is equal to pi is 22/7 times the radius, which is 10.5, and I need to square it. So when I plug this into my calculator now, and when you plug it in, you should put in parentheses 22/7 times the 10.5 squared. You guys should get an area to be about 346.2 inches squared. And there you have the 3 pieces you were looking for. So take a moment right now and pause the video so that you guys can try these 2. You try. If you notice, there's a fun little meme for you guys. Alright, and there you have it. There's the 2 you try problems for you guys to look at. I did show you all the work so you guys can double check your work. So what you guys are going to do now is you're going to go over to Schoology and complete this circle work activity. In order to do this, you're going to have to open up the circle activity sheet that's posted in Schoology. You need to find 5 circular items around your house. They can be as simple as a bowl, a plate, a can, a ball. You're going to need a piece of string and a ruler. If you don't have string, use your shoelace. If you don't have a ruler, you can use this link. I have a video posted on how to read a ruler. You're going to have to include some pictures, but double check Schoology with the full list of the description for this assignment. I will have a short video that goes with it. Other than that, guys, that is your lesson on circumference and area. Please be sure to check Schoology for the next part of the lesson. Have a great day, guys. And as always, reach out to me if you have questions.